Okay. Welcome. Let's have some of you joy. We're gonna wait for people to log on. Also, feel free to tell me who's watching. Hi, Greg. Hi, Wilmer, Gandalf. Hi, Cynthia. So I have a question. Hi, JD, Nicole. Hi. Hola, hola, hola. So I have a question. Am I able to, obviously not right now, I'm watching your comments and stuff, but am I able to turn off the comments during the live? I swore that there was an option for that. If there's an option, can y'all tell me how to do that? Hi, Coco. Let me see. Is there a way to turn off commenting? Okay, I think I just saw it. Got it. Turn off. Okay. So I'm going to leave the comments up right now, but while we're doing the interview, we're going to turn off the comments so that they're not like coming up, while we're like talking or whatnot. Also, if you don't, for those of you who want to watch this afterward, or if they miss it, it's gonna be uploaded to my YouTube channel, so you can watch it on there. Hi, friends in San Diego. Hi. All right, we have over 100 people. So I think we'll start soon. Let's have some more people get on. We'll wait a couple more minutes. How is everyone's Thursday going? My week has been quite I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. It's been quite the week for drag. Sending love to Hawaii. That's how you say it, right? I can never say that right. Oh, thank you, Marie. Besitos. Let's go. All right. Thank you. Hey, Omar. Kisses. Jason, my love. I love you. Hi, Psychedella. Oh, I have some dates for you, Psychedella. I gotta message you. Bonjour, all the way in Paris. I don't know how to pronounce it. You guys talk so sexy over there in Paris. Hi, we got Canada in the house. Where else do we have? I love that word, guapetona. So for San Diego, I'm gonna be in San Diego coming up soon. Hey Pa, hey Pa. Oh, I love you, miss you. I miss you. But I am going to be coming up. I'm going to do a brunch in San Diego, I believe. There's a couple things that I'm doing in San Diego, so that will be coming up. I'll make sure I post it when it gets closer to the date as well. Welcome to my Instagram. We're going to go ahead and have an open conversation about drag kings, their drag, their aesthetic, and let me warn everyone. I'm talking to two drag kings, so this is their opinion, which I think is the first thing that has gotten us into trouble, is that they're going to give me their opinion on certain subjects, and it doesn't reflect an entire community. And I think that we need to normalize having differences in opinion, because having a different opinion is not hate speech. And there's a huge difference between the two. It allows people to have an open conversation when you disagree or have a different opinion. One thing I'm going to say really quick is because when someone's opinion doesn't line with yours and you attack these people, less people are inclined to ever sharing their true feelings. I'm going to tell you that right now, because they're going to tell you what you want to hear, what you think you should hear, and then the conversation doesn't happen. And it needs to happen. I can tell you several people who feel or are aligned with certain things, and they don't share their opinion simply because they're going to get attacked because of cancel culture, and they don't feel that it is a safe space. We cannot be hypocritical and say, hey, we need inclusivity for all, only when your opinion aligns with mine. That is not inclusivity. Please understand that. That's the first thing. And the last thing I'm going to say in regards to that, because I'm no here defending, what I said, or I will say this. I'm going to talk about maybe the lack of, how I didn't articulate it as well, maybe. But I'm the type of person that I've always spoken my mind. I've always been true to myself and my opinion. And I'm an open book. We can always sit there and have an open discussion. And when given new information and a fresh and different perspective, I am allowed to change my opinion because I'm open to the conversation. Do you see what I'm saying? So for those people that get on my social media and tell me to slit my wrists and quit drag, it's so uncalled for and so unnecessary. And I don't appreciate it. And when you do it to others, it's not warranted. It's not something that I condone at all. Let's do better, especially when you want to sit there and talk about inclusivity. So with that said, I want to bring two people that are part of the drag industry. And we're going to have an open conversation about certain things that I said and how it made them feel, what their perspective is on, drag kings, being on Drag Race, being on any kind of competitive platform with femme presenting queens and other types of drag, but basically under that, drag umbrella. So I'm going to invite, well, first I'm going to turn off the comments right now. I love you guys. Thank you guys all for the comments. This video will be posted on my YouTube channel. And really quick before, I have this YouTube channel that has been sitting there that I didn't know what I wanted to do with. And it wasn't until this happened that I realized that I want to shed light on subjects that are not getting enough attention. But I also want to do fun things too, and like behind the scenes and just things that, we all kind of talk about, but it isn't given that platform. And I think this is a perfect way to get started. Is the audio funny? Let me know in the comments if the audio is funny. But I think this is going to be a great way to segue to that. So I'm excited. So after this, you can go to the YouTube page. This will be posted on there. You can watch it. If someone didn't catch it, then you can watch it there. Okay, so it's delayed. Got it. Okay, so some people say it's delayed. Some people say the audio is fine. So we're gonna go ahead and get my guests on. Oh, I hate that it's delayed. I don't know if that means I should start all over. I'm just going to start it. Hopefully this just works out. I hate that it's delayed. That sucks, but let's just do it. Okay. So we have Tenderoni, waiting for Tenderoni to get on here. Let's give it a second. see if... Okay, perfect. Now I got both requests. Got it. Okay. Works. Okay. Okay. There you go. There you go. We go. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay. Is the audio okay? Like you can hear me, all that good stuff?
I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Well, welcome. We're gonna have a cute chat right now. I love that background over there. It's very Saved by the Bell, Tenderoni.
Thank you.
Tenderoni's on brand today.
Okay. So first things first, I want you to, obviously you have a huge following, the both of you, but there are many people that don't know who you are. So I would love for you to introduce yourself. Tell me who you are. How long have you been doing drag, part of the industry? You know, the gist in a nutshell. We can start with you, Landon.
My name is Landon Cider. I've been performing drag for 15 years, full time as my only source of income for 10 years. And to like pat my own back, I've traveled the world. I've toured with incredible artists. I've met incredible artists. I've performed to tens of thousands of people in these massive crowds. And I'm happy to be here to have this conversation with both of you today.
Awesome.
Well, hello, I'm Tenderoni. I've been doing drag for 7 years, full time for 5 years. I'm from Chicago. I've also been super fortunate enough to travel and meet tons of people. I'm honestly honored to be on this because like Landon is started as my mentor and now I'm just like doing shows with him. So it's just like a full circle for me right now. And I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation. And honestly, it's a breath of fresh air to see somebody facing conflict head on. So thanks for that.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I would get these little like comments like, "Oh, backpedaling, damage control," and I was looking at all these comments, and it's not what motivated the conversation. What motivates this conversation is that you two weren't a part of it. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like we can't always sit here and talk for people, and I felt like so many people were doing that, and I said, you know what? No, and I which. To piggyback off, the reason I chose you two is I both have worked with both of you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in California and Chicago. Tenderoni's in Chicago. Landon's here in California. I've witnessed both your drag, and you have both been in competitive spaces with people who present femme queen, and some of those comments seem to be, for lack of better words, problematic. So I want to make sure, you know, I get your take on that and so forth, so on. But before we get into that, I want to know what inspires your drag, because I want people to really understand as a drag king, you have drag queen, drag king, and some people will put it under just one umbrella and just say drag, which is totally fine. But is that okay with you? Do you know what I mean? So what inspires your drag, and would you consider drag king, or are you just drag?
For me, I present as a drag king for the term that I would be used to explain my drag, but it's under the umbrella of drag art and drag performance and drag entertainment. And just like we're all human, but we all have different levels of how we identify within the human umbrella.
Right.
And that's all presented in drag too. I present my drag in a much more androgynous way. I present a lot more feminine, especially than what I used to. I used to perform a lot more super masculine, but that's also where drag was when I started. It was very binary. And so grateful for everyone to be more inviting and inclusive of blurring those binary lines. And I've found myself really writing that line and blurring it much more with my art. And I consider myself a performance artist, and what inspires me is performance art. It doesn't, drag king isn't what I'm inspired by. Performance art is what inspires me.
And you would say, would you say the kink part, it doesn't define your drag? The
It does in a way where I want to always represent and fight for drag kings, and always make sure that I'm representing my best as a drag king, because that's my root. That's how I started. I still feel that I'm a drag king. I don't feel it's like any level of identity. It's more of representing a minority that is very rarely represented.
got it. Tenderoni?
Yeah, I feel very similar. Like I am a drag king, but at the end of the day, I'm a drag entertainer. I always say I'm a drag king on paper because that's what gets me paid. And it's just like it's a lot
Yeah.
easier to explain to people. It's a lot easier to say like I'm the opposite of a drag queen. I mean, when the opportunities I get to perform in front of large audiences, sometimes it's the first time anyone has ever seen a drag king. So I like to be black and white in that sense, to kind of explain like this is a subculture within a subculture. So this is us doing drag in the world of drag.
Right.
And it's not, I mean, it's different, but it's not different. It's hard to explain, you know, sometimes, but it's just like at the end of the day, we're doing drag. And my influences, as you can see, like are very much like 80s and 90s pop culture icons. I love like Michael Jackson, Bobby Brown, you know, MC Hammer, George Michael,
Yeah.
all of these like icons of the 80s and 90s. And then it's just like a twist to it.
Right.
I think what Landon says too is like, it's funny because like I'm actually more feminine in drag than I am out of drag. And I'm a, you know, drag king.
Yeah.
But you know, drag just allows me to like unlock, you know, things I don't do in my regular day-to-day life, and I get to do it on stage. And at the end of the day, I'm a drag entertainer, but being classified as a drag king is also very important to me.
And it's funny that you
I
say
also
that
want to
because
add,
I'm sorry?
I just wanted to add something after you respond to Tenderoni. Is fine.
Oh, okay. So it's funny that
Yeah.
you say that because you said it's different but the same, which is something that I said, and they're like, no. It's the same. It's drag. And when someone says that, I'm like, I get what you're saying because, like Landon said, it's all performance art, and in that sense, it is the same. But I feel like there's might be some different elements to being a drag king. So correct me if that's the wrong terminology, because these are certain things that I want to make sure that I get correct. So I said it's different, but the same. Can we elaborate on that just a little bit?
That's kind of where I was adding to, is where I don't think it's different. I think it's the same, because it's just as different as you're different than Sasha Velour. It's the same. You're both drag queens,
Right.
but you're both
Okay.
different. It's the exact same thing, just different. I'm presenting my drag with an approach base of critiquing masculinity, but masculinity is so all over, woo, is so all over the spectrum of where that lies with femininity. It's all the same. Masculine, what does that mean? Feminine, what does that mean? It's all in
Right.
the
Yeah.
eye of the beholder and how you perform that and how you execute that, and what story you're telling with your art, whether it's performance or just a look. And I
Right.
think that is where everything's the same. It's different clothes, but it's the same to me.
Yeah. And it's so funny because there was this with this clip at the end of the clip. I'm like, I think we're saying the same thing. Like, but I want to go to the part where we talk about the competitive part. You have both competed and been in a competitive space. And Tenderoni, I want you to tell me exactly the name of the entire title. I don't want to butcher it.
You would.
It is Drag Queen of the Year award contest competition award. Honestly, I get confused by it, but it is it's funny because the title is Drag Queen of the Year, but a lot of people don't understand that it's a misnomer on purpose, because it's in a reference to Tu Wong Fu, the pageant in Tu Wong Fu is called Drag Queen of the Year.
Right.
So a lot of people are like, aren't you offended by that? And I'm like, no, because I know what I
Can you
know what I signed up
say
for.
that again, please? Can you say that again? Are you offended by that? And you say,
Well, for me, I think, well, tying back to the whole Roscoe's
yeah,
controversy, I think a little bit of what you said got taken out of context.
yeah,
And I don't necessarily think it's problematic. I just think some of it is a little bit like disappointing. It's because you're entitled to your opinion. I'm not telling you how to do drag. You're not telling me how
right.
to do drag. But I think that when this idea gets misconstrued and out in the court of public opinion, it kind of becomes a blanket statement, and it kind of becomes an us versus them argument. It's
It gets
always us
divisive.
versus them.
It becomes
And
very
I
divisive.
I
Yeah,
think that the mentality that we would get judged harshly. I mean, at the end of the day, every single competition I've done has been judged by drag queens. Landon is a judge on a show that judges both drag queens and drag kings. So him as a drag king is also like, it's like the same thing when you think about it.
yeah.
And I just think it's important to not be othered, to not be like, oh, you can do the show, but like have your own show. Because then it kind of is like, it, to me, in a sense, it's like, you know, when people are religious and it's like, yeah, you're gay, you can be gay, but just don't be gay in my area,
In my
you
house.
know.
Don't bring it over here. Yeah.
So I think it's just it's sad, but like when you have a platform, you have to be careful about how you say things, because it kind of turned into this ball of what happened essentially.
Absolutely.
And it just becomes a fight that I'm like, I didn't sign up for this fight. Like what is going on?
Yeah. And Landon, did you want to say something?
Yeah, to piggyback off that, when it comes to, yeah, separate, just make them separate. Just make them separate. There's two arguments that I hear the most with that argument, with that point to be made. And for me, it's a response of drag race is a microcosm example of what drag is, right? So they're saying this is a version of drag, and it's a trickle down effect. And we've seen how impactful it's done for the queer community, for queer artists, for queer spaces. It has blossomed bars that were dying back to life because
Right.
they have viewing parties, all of the different amazing financial gain that we have seen from the trickle down opportunities that came from drag race. And to be like, they don't realize, to see that that microcosm of separate but equal trickles down into our small bar shows too. So we're seeing people using, well, drag race doesn't have drag kings, so we don't need to have drag kings. And they're not saying that out loud, but it's all mental. It's all what you're seeing as an examples. That's why mainstream media doesn't know what drag kings are,
Right.
and we're constantly explaining that at our shows, even though we're successful, even though I've won a show, even though I've judged on multiple drag reality TV shows. I've judged multiple times, and I'm still explaining that almost every time I'm on stage or into an audience after the show. And there's a secondary argument when it comes to separate. They'll want to say, oh, it's because a drag king is going to be tokenized, and I don't want to see a drag king tokenized on that show. I think their art should be celebrated, so they should be given their own show. And I understand the sentiment and the intention behind that argument, but it completely ignores the fact that this other show has lifted up this platform so much, so high, and we're still not being reflected on there, is what the main argument for us to be included there includes, which is all these opportunities that come, these tours, these pay raises, these TV opportunities, these parts in films and TV shows that all come because you were on that show. And I would love to see a drag king be on that show and then do a spin-off. Great. Perfect
Absolutely.
way to do it.
Yeah.
Just like we have all these other spin-offs.
Yeah.
And all these different versions of different locations where a famous drag queen now hosts that one. Another famous now hosts that one. It's the same thing. A drag king would introduce the world to us. Even if he's judged unfairly. I don't even give a fuck if he's judged unfairly. Give that drag king the opportunity to present his art the way he does, just like the drag queens do. They're edited incorrectly. They're made out to be the villain. They're made out to be weak. They're new. They're the bad one. We know how drag race casts all the queens to fit these characters. Let a drag king be one of those characters. And if he's not good, he's not good. He's going to be good. He might be the edit, not be good. But again, that's out of your hands. Let that drag king give the opportunity to himself to do what he have with that opportunity.
Right. And I'm glad that you said it the way that you said it, because those are certain things that have crossed my mind where I'm like,
Mhm.
you know, I want them to be judged fairly, et cetera, et cetera. But like you said right now, fuck it. I
Yeah,
don't care.
I
I want the
don't care.
platform.
Yeah.
You know, right. And see, and that's the thing, that I put myself in a place where I was thinking for you. Do you see what I mean? And so I was making a decision thinking I'm like, well, fuck, I want to be judged fairly. And I'm thinking like me. You know what I mean?
I mean, I
Where,
want to be judged fairly,
right, right.
but
Oh no,
but when you go
obviously
on
no.
that show, you give up any power. So
Yeah,
there are
Yeah.
queens constantly on that show who aren't judged
right,
fairly, but they thought
right.
they were going to be because they're drag queen, but they go in not being judged
Yeah.
fairly.
So I love that, because what I take from that is this, it's the platform of what drag race is and what it does, how it elevates someone's career,
Mm-hmm.
and the attention they get from being on, just for lack of words, I'm going to say the primary season, the primary one, the American one, you know, the one, the
The
one that started
flagship,
it all.
the
Yeah, the
flagship
flagship.
season.
There we go,
Yeah.
the flagship. Perfect. Um, and that comes with a lot of weight, and that's the part where I feel like I didn't I didn't take into account with what I'm saying. So as I'm saying, like, give them, you know, a drag race kings edition. Yeah, but it doesn't carry the same weight. This
Right.
is what, right? I mean, this is what we're saying, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I agree with that. It does not carry the same weight. And I think that if you're willing to get, obviously, we all want to be judged, you know, fairly.
Yeah.
In my mind, I just kept thinking that drag has evolved so much, but I feel like drag race is playing catch up with the way that we think. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, hands
right?
down. Yeah.
Like, I just feel like the show is just not designed. Like, they haven't really embraced, I don't want to say embraced. They haven't opened up to the evolution yet. You know what I mean? They're always so like tiptoeing around. Like, it's just so, they're so scared. Like,
It's all
do we
money.
do it or do we not? You know what
It's
I mean?
because of, we know, even though we have a person of color that is the producer and host of the show, we still know there's ingrained racism in that show. We know that the toxic fandom is horrifically racist. We've seen it time and time again. We know that they are way more siding on certain things, and that all comes with where the money's coming from. It all comes from the
Totally.
money, and where all
Totally.
that comes from is a racist patriarchy. So the fact that trans women weren't allowed for so long, even though the fans were screaming for them to be able to present themselves authentically to themselves on and off camera, it was all racist. But in that case, patriarchal. They didn't want to see a trans woman because there was still money being fed into that production. And I think what's holding back is underlying all of like Rue's like previous comments about kings and women in drag, which we know has been incredibly problematic. And if you, an audience who doesn't know about some of those interviews or the things that she said, that has been like, how do you say that out loud in an interview when people, you know, for like these mainstream magazines?
Yeah.
Go back and look it up, and you might be surprised, you might not be. But I think it still comes from the root of misogynistic, patriarchal people in charge and mindsets.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
we all have ingrained patriarchy and misogyny. I have to deconstruct my own problematic thoughts because of wait, that's not me thinking, that's what society taught me to think.
Right.
And so I have to deconstruct myself all the time,
Yeah.
even my own self-inflicted misogyny and patriarchy. And I think that's what the show takes really a long time to do, and that's why we didn't see trans women for so long.
Did you want to say something, Tenderoni?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I think as a drag king, if you, as a drag artist who applies to go on that show, I very much think it's apply at your own risk. So it's like, yeah, it's like, it might not be fair, it might be messed up, but it's like, you know what, you're applying at your own risk. So it is what it is. And I think that I always think about the big picture. I think of the history. I'm a pop culture buff. I love, pop culture, and I always think of, like, when you think of the big picture, like, RuPaul was the first drag queen to do all of these things, and I'm always like, who was the person to give her the first chance? Who was the person who was like, you know what, uh let's greenlight this. I know drag queens that's a weird concept and it's not mainstream, but let's greenlight it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're searching for someone to do that for us, to take the chance and be like, you know what, let's try it out, let's see what happens. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, like, it's at your own risk.
Absolutely. And I don't want to be as someone a part of a marginalized community, there's no way that I want to show or be a part of any kind of exclusion from anything. With my words, I didn't mean to make it seem like I was wanting to exclude you from this platform, because I don't. You are two individuals that I love your art. I love what you do. During the entire pandemic, Tenderoni was my go-to online with all of her. By the way, pronouns. What are our pronouns? Tenderoni?
For me, when you're talking about my drag, it would be he, him.
He, him.
Since we're talking about our drag today, let's just keep it he, him.
He, him. Okay.
Yeah, agreed. He,
Tenderoni
him.
Okay, perfect. So with Tenderoni, watching his videos during COVID had the best special effects ever. It was
Instagram filters.
Oh my God. It was just insanity. It was insanity.
15-second clips. It was
that
genius.
you had to put together.
So
and
good.
then Landon, the king of green screen. I was like, oh my God, like, how many Landons can we fit?
I did way too much.
I
did way too
love
much
it.
on the pandemic.
I love it. Landon's cholo. What do you call it? Is it the cholo number
It's
that
my
you
cholo,
do?
yeah.
Cholo. Okay, I
Yeah.
live for that number. But I appreciate and celebrate your drag. I don't want you or anybody else for that matter to feel otherwise. And this is why I really wanted to have this discussion. But I also see that certain people leave like certain comments like, I don't want to see that, or they should have their own show. And then I'm like, wait. Let's have the conversation, because I feel like they're lacking the experience. Maybe they haven't seen a drag king. They haven't watched a performance. And that's not to their fault. It's the clubs. We need to make sure that these venues are definitely doing their part and giving the bookings. Were you gonna say something, Landon?
Yeah, to kind of add to that, when people in the comments say stuff about not wanting to see drag kings, or they're boring, or they don't try as hard, the same things I'm sure Tenderoni has seen a million times over as well in this discourse. But when it comes to that kind of argument, like, I saw a drag king once and he was boring. I saw a drag king once, he looked like he just went to the thrift store. And all those arguments are valid as an audience member, but they also don't put that same alignment with the drag queen, who also looks like she bought her shit at the thrift store too. She's wearing a tank top, short shorts, and a dollar store wig, and they're like, oh, bitch, work. And it's like, because it's what you've been trained to appreciate the efforts of, but not the king, who they're both starting out, but the king is being down, like, voted down because he doesn't look like he's trying as hard when they're doing the same effort. And also that reflects on the growth that we've seen drag queens have with the explosion of Drag Race. 16 years ago, or 16 seasons ago, well, about 15 years ago, drag queens obviously existed, and there were plenty of drag queens around doing it full time as they're in their local communities. But you cannot deny the exponential growth that we've seen of the number of queens and the level of artistry, and fucking the lace front wigs have improved. Like, like, opportunities for all of that, from other artists benefiting from selling and making money and profiting and making a whole market for drag queen performance. And we don't see that same level of exposure for kings because they don't see themselves reflected, so they don't know they can do it, so they don't try to do it, so they're not seeing that same like amount of kings. We know, Tenderoni know that when we started, there's countless more kings. It's like when I started, there was only 3 kings in all of Southern California, and now there's like probably 300. Like I don't even know. It's just ridiculous.
But even
So many more kings have come
even
out.
even the fact, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but even the fact that you have that you're like, well, now there's 300. That's still such a low number, though.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's
Exactly.
still, we shouldn't be able to say, oh, well, there's this many. We should say there's just too many to, you get
Too
what I'm
many to
saying?
count. Exactly.
And I think that that's a lack of opportunity because
Exactly.
there's
To
a lack of
grow.
opportunity.
To grow as well. And like
Yeah.
Absolutely.
opportunity to cut your teeth on stages, to see other kings live, to be like, oh, what did they do here? Oh, that was a fun gag. Oh, I never thought about twisting that lyric to make a joke about masculine puns. Like all the things that you learn from watching drag queens perform live, kings don't have those opportunities watching perform live as well. So we're not growing and being inspired as fast tracked as we are.
Right.
So the artistry of kings blows my mind every time I just look up hashtag drag king. It blows my mind, but it's still not as fast tracked as queens have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, I definitely agree. I think when you talk about lack of opportunities, I also think it's lack of resources because when you think of drag queens, it's like drag queens have 15 years of drag race to reference, you know, challenges and different looks and things, and drag kings don't have that. When I started out doing drag, I was looking up YouTube videos. I like my drag is based off of drag queen makeup with Landon's face. Because Landon was like my go-to. Exactly. Landon was my go-to. I was like, oh, let me screenshot this. Let me see